Hello everybody! Welcome to GameGuru, broadcast live, end of month news report, internal development progress and a massive Q&A, and hopefully this format is a little better in that when I do a Q&A I can actually demonstrate in the software as well as just talking about it. Now because this format has changed and I changed many things, I'm going to resume our usual sound check. I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing by now, but I'm a little paranoid, so I'm just going to check a chat. And I've been reading the chat, has been rolling up through the introduction, and a comment was made that maybe the quality and the lag is better from this month onwards, and that's because I've upgraded my internet system with something called Starlink, and I get slightly better upload and download. So maybe this improves. I've been looking at the bar. OBS has some software which tells you whether you've done any frame drops, and right now it's 0 frame drop and we're all in the green. So I'm pretty happy with it. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, ouch, and we're going to have to spend 20 minutes going through a bit of a technical blah blah. But I'm just looking at the chat. You can't see it, but I can. We can hear you, we can hear you, I hear you. Thank you very much. Now we can proceed. I'm not going to go too much into the news. I make it a regular point to post on the Discord once a week. Just give you a summary, brief summary albeit. So if you've got any more questions that the brief summary didn't quite cover, just throw them in the Q&A in the live chat. We'll get to them in chronological order and I'll answer as many as I can. If you want me to demonstrate something within the software, just fire away that request and we'll go through that as well. Be more entertaining than has been previously commented, staring at a browser for 20 minutes, a single screen whilst I witter on. So that's the plan. So let's just go through some brief news items. As I said, you're going to get this news anyway on Friday, but it's Wednesday, so you get it 2 days in advance if you're lucky enough to join us live. And I'm not going to, it's not absolutely conclusive, it's just things that were kind of occurring to the top of my head. First up is I recently finished a podcast. I did that podcast on Sunday. You may already have listened to it. If you haven't, go on Discord, ask someone, they'll send you the link and you can listen to it. I must warn you though, it's 3.5 hours long. It was scheduled for an hour and it turned into 3.5 hours, but anyone who's actually been cornered by me in a pub will know that's easily done. So 3.5 hours flashed by, lots of information, lots of tidbits, covering the whole spectrum of GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max, so definitely check that out if you want one of your ears bored off. I enjoyed it. I think Felix enjoyed it as well, so go check that out. It's probably on a link somewhere in the socials. Also letting you know there's a couple of DLCs that have been recently released, and one that's imminent for release on GameGuru Max, but the one I'm really happy with is the easy terrain tool for GameGuru Classic. It has been available as a tool for quite a while, but it was such a cool tool. I asked Preben if he wanted to make it an official DLC for Classic. He said yes, and so now it's an official DLC for Classic, so you can find that on Steam and add it to your Steam collection. So if you don't know about that, go check it out on Classic. Very cool. And just as a little in brackets codicil, I've not tested it myself, but apparently you can create islands surrounded by sea and export that height map, and that height map loads into GameGuru Max. Now Preben has been sort of hinting at, maybe talking about creating this functionality directly for Max, but right now it's in his easy terrain tool. Height map export, so go check that out if you don't already have it. That features in there somewhere. And finally, I want to just cover off bug fixes. Right, you'll see my screen change. In case you don't know how to get into all the juicy details, I know people in the past have accused me of being a little bit too obscure when it comes to what actually is going on at TGC Game Making Development Department. Well, this is where it all is. Every time I make enough code changes, I instantly commit it to the public repo. It's a good backup, so in case my PCs get fried, the code is safe. But it also means that you get to see all the code changes to GameGuru Max along with commentary. as a summary of exactly what each commit contained. But it's not super intuitive to find. You have to go to Game Creators, then go into the GameGuru Max repo. That's different than the GameGuru repo you'd say post your issues to. This is exclusively for GameGuru Max source code. And furthermore, you have to drop down away from main and into the latest month. So each month I create a new branch, nice and separations of all the different codes month after month. So you'll need to go into the June 2023 in order to see the latest changes. Once you've done those two things, you are here. And as you can see, I think this commit was actually even today. So you just click on the little three dots and it gives you a summary. Yes, you can click on this and go into the source code, but who wants to do that? But effectively, if you just keep clicking all these dots, you'll actually get effectively the change log. And this change log is bigger than you would normally get in the, let's say there's an update and you get the announcement thing that flashes up. Can't include all these, it'll just bore people. So we just cherry pick the cool ones, the ones that kind of might make sense to you. But this is the exhaustive list. It's as much for the benefit of anyone contributing to the repository as indeed for my own benefit, just to remind myself, oh, when did I change that thing? And once I found it, then I can dive in and it isolates the code change very specifically. It makes, if I've actually added a fix that broke something else, I can see the code almost immediately just by looking at the summary and then diving into the commit. But I digress. Why am I talking about this? Lee, we are not coders. Get on with it. It's just that I'm going to use this, I think, every month, just to read through quickly. And if there's anything that strikes me as interesting, I might demonstrate it in this first part, this news section. But also, if you want to follow along and check this out yourself, spot something that you're interested in, you can actually throw it into the live chat and say, what did you mean by that? Can you show me what happened when you fixed this or that? Or what is this small functional addition? And I'm happy to respond to that as well. The reason I'm happy is that it's fresh in my mind, so I could probably pull it out like that. Da-da, this is exactly it. If you actually pulled something from 3 months ago, I'd really have to scratch my head to figure out what it was I actually changed, because as you can see, this is not completely exhaustive. There's a description, more of a small footnote / reminder. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to talk about. Bug fixes have resumed in full force. As I said, I think in last month, I was combating my inbox, which had 3 pages. Each page was 50 emails. You can imagine, over 150 emails. It was a bit of a depressing sight after my holiday. Got it down to single digits now, which means I can now free myself just to focus on bugs and help people out with the game projects if they're far along. And you'll see sometimes some of the bug fixes correlate to some new DLC feature that an artist passionately wants, or it relates to a game project that's really far along in GameGuru Max. I'm quite happy and willing to help sort of get that the rest of the way, so there's a potential for releasing it on Steam. I'm getting the sense, looking at the clock, 10 minutes of pure waffle. So you know what? I think I'd want to get into the Q&A and start some demonstrations. So let's do that. Okay, this has always been an experiment, but you can see this little black box on the right hand side. That was supposed to auto-populate with a chat window that I've opened up, and it looks like it's not showing. It's supposed to detect the title. Now, I'll tell you what, because this is only the second of these broadcasts, I think I can be forgiven for playing around with the settings. Now, I'm say play around with the settings. Should I play around with it live? Yes. Will I potentially break everything? Yes. But maybe I can change these things live, so I'm certainly going to give it a go. If it turns out this is a fool's errand, fine. But I'm just going to give a quick look. And if I can click on the chat window, this looks like it. Live chat, ? Okay, cool. So what it looks like is we can actually change the broadcast system live. Ooh. There you go. Hooray! I made it work. I did a thing. That's brilliant. But I'm going to keep this on, and so I can read the larger text. You should now be able to see on your broadcast screen a slightly smaller chat box. Hopefully it's still big enough that you can read everyone's questions. And I'm going to scroll to the top, and I'm going to look for a question mark. I'll take a little bit more time. We've got plenty of time for Q&A, so if there is a question that's been asked and an obligatory question mark was not used, I forgive you. So let's see if we can find some questions, some worthy questions. This can be about anything you like. Game making in general, GameGuru Classic, GameGuru Max, the torture of a 3.5-hour podcast. So, looks like there aren't many questions. So, I think I've tricked everyone by moving it from a weekly broadcast to a monthly broadcast. A lot of people probably have forgotten. It's the last Wednesday of every month, so I get away with a very short Q&A. Not that I want to. I'm here. I'm at your service, at least for the next hour. I have budgeted an hour of my time today to answer any questions you've got, or just have a chin wag. And if we do run out and it's a woefully small broadcast, I'll probably bounce back to the commits and pick out and cherry pick some of the things that have recently been fixed and demonstrate them. But before that, I think your questions are important, take priority, and so we shall start there. And the first question, just before the first question, Daniel Williams says Luke's great. I assume that's in reference to the very low dropped frames. Currently my OBS software says 2.6% of frames have been dropped at 852. I guess that was when we was moving around different screens. I think what happens with encoders is if the previous frame is identical to the latest frame for encoding, little data is needed to be sent whilst you're streaming. If I'm doing, like, say, full action gameplay, all bets are off, perhaps. But right now we're in the green, so I'm pretty happy about that. So thank you very much, Daniel Williams, for confirming that it's smooth and high quality at your end. So, Duke229, you get to ask a question. Would you like to place a voting if people want to see you play GG and GG Max games in the live stream in the future? Wow, what an appropriate first question, because I actually had a little note to ask that myself. During the podcast, and you'll be lucky if you found the exact moment it was uttered, it was suggested that instead of just me waffling on or just answering a few questions and then ending the broadcast, that every month we pick our GameGuru Max project that someone in the community has been working on and has given permission for Lee to play 30 minutes of it. It's like a walkthrough or a run through or a crawl through. And during that playthrough, I get to observe, comment, critique, make suggestions, make compliments, make critique during that 30 minutes. So it's a brave person who submits their game project to me for these live broadcasts. But I think it's a great idea. It would allow, first and foremost, everyone to see some new stuff that's going on in the background that you wouldn't normally get to see. But also it's useful for the person who's doing the project to get some of my insights. So it's almost like 30 minutes of quality Q&A from me. But also during that 30-minute run, crawl and walkthrough, you get to ask questions and say, can you stop the action for a minute? Can you have a look at this? Can you try this? Can you try that? And together we can sort of identify on behalf of, for the benefit of the author, anything that could be improved during that demo. And probably 50% of the time, the thing that would be great if it could be improved actually falls back on my plate because a new feature is required or a bug fix is required. I just spotted in the corner of my eye, OBS just went red, then yellow, and then green. And I must point out, and we may need to switch back to the old-fashioned internet, is that even though Starlink, which is direct communication with a satellite floating in low Earth orbit, is super, super high bandwidth, its latency leaves something to be desired. It's so far, I'm pretty lucky. I'm getting somewhere between 30 and 50 ms. If you're living next to a T1 building, that is like 3 ms. And I think most people get about 6 to 12 ms. And basically all that means is, 10 milliseconds, you'll get like, 10 of them. No, you wouldn't. You get 100 of them in a second. So you can imagine 30 is about, I'm going to do quick math here, 30 or 60 times a second, something like that. I think 30 ms is 60 frames per second. So that's 60 times a second. So yeah, it could be that the reds and the orange, yellows that you see on OBS is just latency drops because a cloud passed overhead, or aliens, or something like that. Anyway, sorry about that. Getting back to the original question. So yeah, I will leave it open. I don't need an answer right away. Use the rest of this broadcast to post your opinions on it, and I'll scrape through the live chat at the end and get your votes. Yes, if you want to see a 30-minute walkthrough of projects that are going on in GameGuru Maxland, or a big capital letters no, if you don't want the format to change and you're quite happy to have a couple of maybe 10 minutes of news and then the rest of it Q&A and demonstrating in the software answers to questions that you put. I'll leave it up to you. Okay, next question. If I can find it. Yeah, I have to scroll up in with my eyeball, and the next one lands on Synchro62. The pause menu in the storyboard is the only one we cannot delete buttons. Maybe we do not want to save our load. We can have it editable. Yeah, it's bigger than that, isn't it? There are certain... I'll tell you the worst one. There, in some of the screens, the standard stock screens in the storyboard, you can delete a button, but you can't get it back. And you can't add a replacement button. So be aware of that, you know. Oh, if you look at the live chat, someone's discovered poll software. Use that. In fact, forget what I just said about yes and no. You actually have proper polling software. I imagine that'll stay running for a while. Thank you to whoever set that up. Maybe I have surreptitious team members floating around the chat. I thought it was just me, so that's great. Thank you very much for figuring out how to use cool chat things. So coming back to the question, pause menu in the storyboard, that's the escape key when you're in standalone, and then it pops up your in-game menu. You cannot delete the buttons, maybe we don't want to save our load. Yeah, so maybe you just want the escape menu just to say resume, go back to main menu, and that's it. And maybe a screen that of your own design, and then you can go back and then go back into the game. Very good point. I assumed you could delete the buttons. I remember the issue on the issues board is you can delete one, but then you can't add it back, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, maybe send me a link, Synchro, on that, just for clarity, and we'll continue that conversation in the issue itself, just to kind of round it off and make sure we're all agreed what page we're on, and then we can do a proper solution for it. But yeah, I sense and smell a bug here, so we should get that one crushed. Super easy to do once we decide what we're doing. Duke229, Torture, Lee, exclamation mark, I am right here. Okay, thank you. Yes, that's right. Duke229 is Felix. No, I didn't mean torture as in it was the torture to listen to. It's like, who sits down for 3.5 hours and listens to us? That's what I mean. It'd be like, I was talking to the rest of my team and we was thinking maybe we could be broken up into 5 parts. Digestible chunks of podcast. That might just make it go down a little easier than having to commit almost half your day into listening. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think no one will feel tortured, only if they actually have to rush out in an hour. Maybe they'd feel a bit pressured then. Okay, question. This is from Dennis. Have you restarted the DX12 rewrite? No, there's 300 plus bugs in the issues board. I'd say 30 of them are high priority, and probably another 100 I'd like to get rid of as soon as possible. The rest, the other 150, they're either edge cases or borderline feature requests. I think when we get to that second phase, where we get to look at those kind of issues, there may be a case for starting to open that Pandora's box of DX12 and the latest version of the Wicked engine. The last time I attempted it, and you may remember from early blogs, it's a lot of work, and so much changed in the Wicked engine from the one we're using to the latest one. it broke everything. It broke pretty much everything. The benefits are there, but there's a lot of work ahead of us in order to get those benefits. So no, we're not looking at DX12 yet. We'll keep looking at the issues board. Once you see that number sort of plummeting down, then we may be looking at DX12 to solve some of the other issues there on the issues board relating to general performance, general memory management, and general optimizations. And I say that because there are some really cool features in the latest Wicked engine, like imposters and potentially object texture streaming. All of these things really save on your video and system memory, and in turn that will help your machine's performance as well. So there's many benefits, but as I said, there's a lot of work to get to it. It's not a 5-minute job. Okay, Lucas asks, is there a way of cycling messages in the load game screen? Tell a story, give tips. The load game screen, the loading screen. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, trying to think of a few games I used to play. But if the loading screen like takes 30 seconds, you can throw up different tips for the game, and it makes that screen a bit more interesting than just a static screen for 30 seconds. I'd say that's not a high priority. It's certainly not a bug. Definitely a feature request. If it doesn't exist on the issues board, post it there with as much information as you can think of. And what I mean by information is, how do you think you would populate all the messages? Would it be through the storyboard? Would it be some sort of weird hybrid behavior where you could feed it text lines? How would you see that particular element be added to a loading screen in the storyboard, or at least starting from the storyboard? Those sorts of details is the starting point to a nice conversation with the community, and we all get on the same page, we all agree, yep, that's the way to do it, and then it gets implemented. But it's a feature request, so it goes to the end of the line whilst we fix these bugs. Okay, question from another one from Synchro. Can you demonstrate importing a classic map? I certainly can. This was actually brought up in the podcast, and Duke229, aka Felix, was surprised that we could do this. Now I'm on the spot now, because if this doesn't work, I'm a liar. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. Well, I think we start off in the storyboard, don't we? So we're going to need to create a new project. So we'll call this The Big Escape. Some people know what I'm going to do now. GameGuru Classic's been in development since we released GameGuru Classic, and then we had 7 years to fix all the bugs. So The Big Escape is always the my go-to level to make sure I've not broke anything every time we do a big update. So we click on that and create a generated terrain, but we're not interested in that. What we want to do is take a GameGuru Classic map and import it into Max and have all of the objects copied over, the terrain converted to GameGuru Max's version of terrain, including its textures and undulations, and hopefully all the objects are in the same place. The last time I tested this, I think, was about 40-50 days ago. So, and a lot of changes to the code since then. So I'm just gonna hold my hand up right now. If this bombs out, it's fine. It's one of the newest of the features that were thrown in right towards the end of the version 1, and it's one of the features that needs the most testing. So let's see. There was only 2 options when we started this. Now we've got all these. So we don't add new level, not a screen, loading screen, no. Existing level, edit, reset, add RPG screens, normal input, But it looks like we're on view advanced settings, so these are all the things. Now I got it in my head that there was actually another button somewhere that, that gave you another button where you could import. But for now, I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Maybe it's an automatic one. Maybe we changed it since. So I'm currently in my writables folder. That's not where I want to be. I want to go into my GameGuru Classic area, which is here. So you can see we're on Steam, Common GameGuru, that's GameGuru Classic. We can go into here and map. That's not very many files. Oh yeah, it's only looking for FPMs. So we're going to Files, Map Bank, and then Big Escape at the bottom. I'll pick the first one. That's the one that comes with the product. You've selected, okay, so Preben, wrote this, I just tested it, and it looks like how the way of doing it is you can just use the regular existing level addition into storyboard. It detects it's naturally a classic map, and then asks if you want to import it. So you're going to click yes. Importing classic level. It's a secondary set of procedures because classic levels, as you imagine, written in a different piece of software. Some people say that Max is really just classic with a few pieces of eye candy dropped on top, like cherries. It isn't. You only have to compare the two source codes side by side if you care to, and so much has been changed. So now we're going to a conversion. That, I think, is the terrain. Now, I did notice that some behavior scripts are missing and no alternatives available. When you see that, what it means is we've moved some of the scripts from the core installation of GameGuru Max into trusted workshop items. But if you've got a level that previously used one of the stock behaviors and has since been moved to a trusted workshop item, you need to have Steam active. Have your Steam client running with you logged into it. Only then can it figure out where the script has moved to in the trusted workshop items and then reconfigure a level to point to the latest version of that script. After that, it's fine. You'll never see the message again. Just wanted to explain what that message was and what to do about it. So now we've got the big escape. We can click that and we can zoom in. Remember, this is GameGuru Max. This isn't Classic, but what we're looking at is a level that was created 7 years ago in GameGuru Classic. And just to sort of point out, you know, these textures, none of these textures are from GameGuru Max. These had to be imported, converted, jiggled around from Classic in order to make your level look somewhat the same. So all the terrain's the same, the textures on the floor are the same, the objects have been copied over from Classic, placed in your users folder in GameGuru Max. All the positions, orientations, they're all there. Now, even the characters, the stock characters have been dropped in because they are objects that we could convert over. But I just want to warn you right now, let me just zoom out and see the whole thing. It was never a very large level, the big escape. It's quite a quick escape, actually. Just want to warn you that it's not 100% forwards backwards compatible, how you want to think of it from a perspective point of view, in that there's certain things that won't come across. There was no point bringing over all of the nuances of the old character creator, because the new character creator in GameGuru Max is much better. We haven't moved over the old scripts because GameGuru Max has a totally new way of doing lure scripts with dynamic lures and other cool features. And so just dragging over 7-year-old stuff sometimes is just not going to be the way. But what you can do is sort of, when you're ready, move something you've been working on in GameGuru Classic over to Max, and at least you've got a starting point with the terrain as you left it, all the objects as you've placed them, but then you're going to have to go in and reassign your logic, reassign your behaviors for things like your characters and certain objects and trigger zones and other things that you might want to happen in your game. Yes, it's a bit of a bummer, but I think we've done pretty well to actually get you this far from a 7-year-old map you may have created and drop it into GameGuru Max. So as you can see, that's that, and the ultimate test. It's like, go on Lee, run it, prove it. Well, I'm going to run it, and this is really off script, not that I have a script. Okay, so here we go, and just to prove by tab, you can see you're in GameGuru Max and GameGuru Classic. And looks like a lot of the lighting is missing. So as I said, not a 100% forward compatible, but it gives you that starting point. And yeah, he's not going to do much. But then if I click I'm in the level editor and give him a behavior, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But remember, that character is a 7-year-old character based on an old Lewis script. Would you even want to use that guy? I wouldn't. What I'd do, if I was a GameGuru Classic user, is get rid of him. I'd go into my library, I'd select modern character, that lady in, behaviors, already set up for a character attack, run. So as you can see what I'm talking about, I'm not trying to kind of recreate 7-year-old stuff. I'm going to give the opportunity to have new character. And voila. So, what a great answer, yeah? So instead of just me waffling on about it, I can demonstrate it in GameGuru Max, and hopefully that's the format that I think you'd appreciate. But let me know if I'm way off base and you want me to do 30-minute playthroughs of community projects. So I imagine you've had plenty of time to chat, but I have plenty of time to scroll up and find the last question that was answered, and then carry on from there. So we've got the pause one, rewrite, we asked that, demonstrate, thank you Synchro62. The next question comes from Lucas. Where do we submit the game for gameplay, critiques, suggestions, etc? I've got 2 full levels to torture you. You know what? Is the word torture going to be the theme of this broadcast? I just assume that anything what I'm involved in has an element of torture. Yeah, Duke229 aka Felix did volunteer to gather up the initial list of anyone happy to be subjected to critique. And so if you want to chat with him as a first port of call, he'll have probably a better idea because he's working on his own stuff, how far along, and have a pretty good idea of how far along people are. I think I would like to feature projects that are over 50% complete. You know, like serious, concerted direction towards releasing on Steam. Because I think that's going to be for the benefit of everyone. You know, the advice, the critique, the work, the additional features that we may add to help that project to get it to Steam out first means we can build the reputation of GameGuru Max, which will get more people interested, and then of course our community can grow. So yeah, 50% complete or above, and it'll also be something to look at instead of just like half a level. They're like a few levels. Okay, so hopefully that's a nice little, what's the word we use? Delegation. A little bit of delegation for you. Okay, is there another question? There's a lot of question marks from Oba Pinadilos. Hello, could you not find a way to play true 3D audio in GameGuru Classic or Max? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Funnily enough, there was an issue reported from the author of Cineguru Classic, who said 3D sound effects work great in Classic, but they don't work in Max. And one of the bug fixes that went in not 2 weeks ago fixed and optimized the 3D audio in GameGuru Max. So Classic and Max both have 3D audio, but I will tell you some gotchas. You can't use OGG because it has its own decoding format and it doesn't lend itself to how we do the direct 3D sound reproduction. You have to use mono WAV format in the 44,000 hertz range, 32-bit PCF. It's all very specific, but it's pretty old technology. The direct 3D stuff goes back as long as GameGuru Classic, and we haven't changed it. There are cool new 3D technologies such as, I think it's called X Audio, which a lot of modern developers now use. Probably things have moved on since then, so if you know of like the latest greatest state of the art 3D audio API that's open source and available for commercial use, please do post it in the live chat or send me an email later. I will definitely add that to an issue, because I do think there's an opportunity to bolster the 3D offerings. Right now it's super simple. You know, it's like where you are, where the sound is, which direction you're looking, and how loud or far away is that 3D audio. But what you can do with these modern 3D APIs is binaural. So it takes into account the shape of your ears. They have environmental effects, echoes, long tinny corridors, all that kind of cool stuff can all be factored in to that final audio rendering. And there's probably some very cool APIs that kind of take all the legwork out of that, and all we have to do is call 20 commands and we get really cool 3D audio. But right now it does work in the latest EXP build, but it's by no means the latest greatest state of the art. It is the direct 3D stuff from at least 7 years ago. Okay, question. Who's got a question for little Oli? Okay, looks like a follow-up. Creepy sounds. Okay, it's just a statement. Okay, a new question is, Stormy, are we still getting DX12 at some point? I believe so, yes. There are many benefits to jump into the latest Wicked engine. Like I said, there's a lot of work ahead of it, but when it's finished, It will be faster, using less memory, with more visual effects, more of the old, say for example, the decally stuff replaced with cool particly stuff. There's the potential of replacing the terrain, grass and tree systems with the methods that the latest Wicked engine uses. I mentioned that just to show you the potential extent of the upgrade, and also indicating the potential amount of work involved. So it's definitely a good idea. We just have to factor it in and do it at the right time. So bug fixing for what we've got right now, top priority. Once everyone's pretty happy with what they've got and can produce stable games and put them on Steam without too much worry, then either we fix all the rest of the bugs with the present Wicked engine on DirectX 11, or we freeze that and then jump onto DirectX 12 and Lee takes a sabbatical for 4 months whilst he gets all that up and running and swaps out a good chunk of what you see on screen. And I'm just saying 4 months out of the blue. It could be 6, could be 8. And do you really want to wait that long in silence? It won't really be silence. We'll have our end of the month broadcast where I can show progress and show the half-baked, half-broken stuff. But you may be able to see through that and see the potential of what you're going to get at the end of it. So yeah, I'm absolutely far from abandoning the idea of DX12, because I also suspect DX11's going to all of a sudden, one day, just not be there. Entirely unsupported, in fact going backwards in support, getting worse and worse. I rather suspect the AMD black screen bug that we did fix with a sort of a workaround. We added an abstraction layer which switched DX11 over to its equivalent Vulkan, but that wasn't a 100% perfect solution. Maybe if we go to DX12, which has more up-to-date sympathy with the latest hardware, we would never have seen that problem, and that's just one example. So yeah, don't worry, DX12 is somewhere out there in the future, but we're prioritising bugs at present. Okay, another question. This is from Tenebrae Gaming Development. Do you have a time frame for being able to build a standalone in Max? You can build a standalone right now, and have been able to do so for quite some time. The standalone that you can export has no splash screen, has no conditions. It encrypts the media, and once you've got your folder with your executable on your media, then you can share, sell, distribute, do what you like. As long as you don't try and pull out the individual models and sell them as your own. But the game itself, it's yours to do with what you will. And you can do that right now. In fact, earlier today, before this broadcast, I was making further tweaks to the standalone export, making sure that more files were transferred over that were previously missing. And I was kind enough, a community member was kind enough to send me the most massive game project I've ever seen. The unencrypted media currently totals 400 gig. And I managed to get the compressed, selectified 20 gig version project, and I tested it in debug and release, and it managed to export the standalone just fine. So I was pretty pleased with that. A couple of missing media items, as you might imagine, from not getting the other 380 gigabytes. But yeah, standalone is pretty robust, does what it needs to do. It's not perfect, it's sort of the end of the process. So as I said with the other feature, it's probably one of the least tested of the features. If you do find an issue, just pop it on the issues board, we'll take a look. The smaller you can make your material that you attach to your issue, so we can see it reproduce quickly, then the quicker it is to fix that bug. Yes, sure, send me a 20 gigabyte zip if that's the only way you can reproduce the bug, and that's also fine. But if you can send me a 1 megabyte project that also shows the same issue, much better for everyone, because it's quicker to fix the bug, reproduce and then fix the bug. So yeah, you can save standalone right now. Okay, question is, oh heck no. Playing user games in the live stream, oh heck no. This is going to be interesting, isn't it, the actual final vote? Let me just see where we are right now at 41 minutes into the broadcast. Oh wow, it's pretty 50-50, isn't it? 53% say yes, 46% say no. I'm not sure that's enough of a swing. What, annoy half your audience? Alright, maybe that vote is finished. Maybe we ask for that vote again. There were 30 votes, 30 users who voted in total. So yeah, we'll probably, we'll still start the process of collecting projects that we find interesting. Maybe we do it in a different way, maybe a shorter, a quick little promo, like a 5-minute show and tell, something like that. So it's still worth sort of doing that initial research, but we'll not commit to doing this 30-minute walkthrough next month's based on this vote. Let's keep talking about it, try and find a format that ticks all the boxes for everyone. Okay, scrolling back up with my eyeball to find the next question that hasn't been asked, and it looks like that would be that's a comment, ha ha ha, more than you think, 3 hours ago, and I'm thinking that's the end of it unless I've got my chat window wrong. Scrolly please. Yes, there's some more chat. So I found a question, but is this on the preview build? So I interrupted a conversation. Looks like this might be a question. Blood Moon Interactive. As you probably know, I've been making behavior tutorials as well as some feature tutorials. Are there any features besides behaviors of Macs you'd like to see me do a video on? I assume that's a question to me. The reason I asked that is it's a very good question for everyone in the live chat, and hopefully one or a few have actually replied on that basis, because I think the community should answer that one. As to what I'd like to see tutorials on, I'd say tutorials on the stuff that everyone kind of generally gets a little bit stuck on, which is like AI and use of behaviors. There's so many behaviors now. I mean, if I just click on this character and show you from the top, animals, effects, lots of markers based on zones, object behaviors, everything you can attach to characters, puzzles and RPG. You know, inexhaustible amount of logic, and really we've only just scratched the surface in terms of what we've put into a built-in tutorial or added to the user manual. By way of a demonstration, if I can get out of this for a second, scroll to the bottom, tutorials, click. I was watching this earlier today. I'm not going to play it. It's only like 70 seconds long, but it's a great little demonstration of behavior AI. It basically allows you to see in 70 seconds, dropping in a player character, dropping in a door, attaching it to a key, the key opens the door, walk through the door, trigger a zone, 3 zombies materialise and attack you. And it's super obvious when you've watched the video what you can do in GameGuru Max and also how you do it yourself. I think more videos like that would be pretty cool, because that was literally 2 or 3 behaviors, and we have over 100 of them. So tutorials that show different behaviors that people might not know about, and if they know about them, show them how they are used, but not taking like 20 minutes to describe one behavior, like a kind of a rapid fire, almost, what do they call those things? Those time-lapse things where you can see it done really quick. The brain's pretty good at picking up sort of the audio visual information super quick and just get an idea of the flow, the scope of it, what's the beginning, the middle and the end, and then people are intuitive enough to go in and find the details for themselves. So I think that would be a super useful starting point for additional tutorials. And I say that in the sense that because that's what it won't end there. There'll be always more behaviours coming out. So you'll be rushing to try and keep up with just the amount of content you'd need to cover and all the different kinds of logic people will want in their game. Because isn't that the hardest part of making a game? I think by now with the GameGuru universe, everyone's kind of accepted it's super easy to generate a terrain, drop in some objects, lay out a level. This is where I start. This is the end of the level. But everything happens in that level. That's the mysterious art of gameplay and difficulty curves, and is it fun or is it boring or is it confusing? That's usually where everyone gets bogged down. And if we can have more information in tutorials on the sub mechanisms that when glued together can create a fun gameplay, I think that would be a good series. Just my idea. I'm sure the community have different suggestions. on what tutorials could be about. But that's my thinking of it on that one particular subject. Okay, checking the time. We're now 47 minutes into the broadcast, and I started 2 minutes late. I'll hold my hands up to that. And I wouldn't like to go beyond the hour, but we do have another 15 minutes, so yeah, let's look for another question. And I think the next question is... Next update, V2 when? Multiplayer this year? Hi everyone. No plans to do multiplayer this year, so hopefully you're not holding your breath on that, and I've made sure that your expectations have been managed. A version 2 of GameGuru Max, probably never. I think it will probably stay GameGuru Max for the next 5 years. But if you mean when is the next public update, i.e. I don't want the EXP build, I want a public update that is reasonably tested, and I can now switch my projects over to the latest version. I am actually warming to getting something tested and ready in the near term. It's been a while, I think it's been like April or May or something since the last public update. And we've had a lot of stuff that's been added since then, so we're at end of June now. So yeah, I'm kind of warming to the idea of pulling something together, getting it out as a tested public update, and then resetting the changelog so we can actually batch these things up. There is a danger of trying to change too much between updates, because suddenly you get an update where too much changes and it breaks your expectations of what your project's supposed to do. So yeah, I'm kind of very close, I think, to a public update. Just needs a bit of testing and knowing where to draw that line, but I think it's pretty close. Okay, question, another one. This is from Mohammed Idli. Can have version of NPC control behavior with animation of frame, not of name. Animation of frame, not of name. I didn't write the NPC control behavior. That was Netcrim. So if Netcrim's listening, or you can find him on Discord, fire off your request to him, and he will unravel what you need. It kind of reminds me, it was a request from somebody else about having a few more Lua commands, so you could identify individual animations within a model or a character by name instead of by some sort of other surreptitious method. And maybe Netcrim won't be able to deliver on that functionality until that command exists. But yeah, there's already been a conversation in and around the power of that, and I suspect maybe you're going to use NPC control for do some sort of third-person perspective. So if you are, definitely get in touch with Netcrim, and he'll get in touch with me if there's commands missing, and who knows, maybe you get what you want sooner than you think. Okay, question mark. This is another one from Tenebre. Lately, a lot of sounds like these zombies is very loud at a distance. Did the latest change break it? If you're talking about the EXP build, the latest one, as I've mentioned earlier, we did some 3D audio fixes. So now you actually have the listener and the 3D sounds being updated correctly. And that is also based on, there's a minimum and maximum volume that you can attach to an object that emits a 3D sound. So you can adjust those parameters, and that in turn will adjust the relative volume of 3D sounds in your game. So you will have noticed a change if you were using 3D sounds that at the time you used them, it was broken. But now it ain't broken, so you may notice a difference in your sound volume. So definitely worth checking out which objects are making those loud noises, and check the min and max volume, i.e. min and max distances, in order to regulate the overall volume of that particular sound. Wow, that was a long sentence. Okay, another question. This is from Scrub. We have faith in TGC Elite. Keep up the good work, question mark. There's no doubt about it. I like work, so I will keep it up. Another question. Maybe you could do a separate live stream for playing those games. I'm a busy chap. I think one broadcast per month is a nice sweet spot. Gets me to have a forum to pour everything in out in one go, and then everyone can run off and do their own thing. And during that time, I get to code and get GameGuru Max. Great. That's kind of my mission right now. If I spent all my time being a YouTuber, nothing would happen in GameGuru Max. I'm sure most people wouldn't want it that way around. Maybe in the future when Max is pretty much where it needs to be and it's stable, maybe I do switch over to do a bit more YouTuber-y stuff, demonstrating more things. But feel free, if nothing is sufficiently demonstrated, to ask early on in the Q&A and our monthly broadcasts. As I said before, we might get away with like little 5-minute show and tells. We've done that in the past to great success. Authors of projects even prepare little 3-minute videos, just a little showcase where I can just play the video and sit back and so you can watch what's going on. So maybe that's a way we can do it as well. But right now we're literally 50-50 on the voting board as to whether the whole idea is warranted. So we'll see what happens in the next 30 days. Okay, question... No, I think that's it. Let me just scroll to the very bottom of the live chat. Oh, okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. There's always more. Okay. No question marks. Anyone? Thank you. La 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 la. There's a question mark here. Are you accepting submissions for demo games that could be included in the demo tab? If so, how does one do that, and what is the criteria and expectations? If it's good and it's small and you give us permission, it goes in. It's that simple. In fact, I want people to showcase their creativity. You can use stock assets. You can use custom assets if you created them and you own them and you have the IP and you have the ability to sign over a non-exclusive usage of them so we can add them to the core product. But that was one of the reasons we did the demo hub, that we could keep bringing out new content so you could see new things that were being worked on. At the moment, a lot of the stuff that's being worked on is like private projects and the authors don't really want to start giving away their assets, and I don't blame them. But yeah, if you're quite happy to follow the conditions, just drop me an email, lee@thegamecreators.com, with either a video or some screenshots just to start the process. And if it's there and it's the right level of quality and it's not massive, so these are like single levels typically. I think the biggest demo we've got has 2 levels in it, which was an internal demo that we created just using stock art. Not too sophisticated, but really nice 2-level demo. Just drop me an email and we'll start that process. But yeah, we're looking for them. And a question, I spotted it because I recognise this from way back when. This is from Daniel. Could Dark Voices be used with Max somehow? For those who don't know, Dark Voices was a plugin that we sold for Dark Basic Professional over a decade ago. And the technology used was a decade old. These days, speech synthesis, or tap out some text and hear it, has moved such a long way since those days. It's kind of almost moved to the cloud, and then the speech you get back is nearly indistinguishable from real speech. There's a bit of an uncanny valley yet. They've not quite got it, but it's very, very good. You can choose accents, languages, emotions, inflections. You can add all these sort of markers, this markup language within the text that you submit to get just the speech that you want. Problem is with these cloud services, at some point there's a fee, and we didn't want to pass any kind of fee on to you guys and gals. And so that's why we've not taken advantage of the latest text-to-speech technology. And, you know, I'm going to shy away from adding an old Dark Voices technology into GameGuru Max. If we're going to add something and spend the time to do it, let's find something that ticks every box. It's free. You can use it commercially. It's quality. It's easy to use. These are the tick boxes that I think we'd need to tick before we consider adding something to GameGuru Max. And of course, if anyone out there wants to work on this as a parallel project and then just show up one day and say, there you go, finished it, add it to GameGuru Max, then I'm all over it. But yeah, I think it would be a really cool feature just to add some text right in the interface and have characters perform voice. We've already got lip sync. Some people are saying that we could do better in that department, and I agree. But yeah, it'd be great if we could add some text and actually see really good voice acting going on without you having to pay, say, voices 1, 2, 3, and then wait and do review processes. You can literally get the software to do it for you with a little help from the cloud. Okay, looking at the time, 56 minutes in. We've probably got another couple of questions, and it looks like in the live chat we do have a couple of questions left. This is from Tom. Hello, Tom. Are you still intending on live streaming and creating a GameGuru Max VR created game? Certainly am. But I thought it was a little selfish to go off and start writing my own game until a couple of other things had happened first. One, I've already mentioned it, is get all of those critical bugs and the annoying bugs off our plate, so everyone gets a nice, more stable GameGuru Max, a more enjoyable experience, and the ability to say about a standalone and put it on Steam without fear. So that's the important thing. That's the one that stays top priority. Also, that's occurred to me, it's also selfish of me going off writing my own game before I've helped other community members who are already like practically there, like they're 90% through their game project on Max, and they want to sell it on Steam, but they're hitting these roadblocks and these brick walls and these little niggles. I want to help with those problems and get them to 100% so they can release their games on Steam. I think that's only fair. And in turn, it actually helps the engine as a whole, which helps everyone. But it also gets rid of those stumbling blocks for me when I start my game. So right now, my game ideas are all just ideas right now. They're just sketches and notes and backs of napkin ideas. Some really interesting ideas. I'll guarantee that the game's going to be weird and it's going to be alternative. It doesn't follow the standard track. Most games will. It will be very different because I have the advantage of writing my own scripts, and if I need to, add my own commands into GameGuru Max to achieve them. But yeah, I'm having fun at the moment. Just the ideation phase is just as much fun for me. So for now, bug fixes, get a few game projects that are far enough along onto Steam. So people can have something to look at and say, yep, GameGuru Max is ready because those games are actually written in GameGuru Max and they're on Steam and selling. Okay, last question it looks like on the chat so far. What VR headset is Max supporting? Any VR headset that's OpenXR as a technology explanation. So if it's OpenXR compatible, that's the API we use to discover, connect to, communicate with, in terms of getting the interaction data and also sending out the renders. So that's why we did OpenXR, because it supports a lot of headsets. As to specifically what we've tested, well, it's basically what I've tested. So I've tested it on the Oculus Quest 2 through Oculus Link. And I even tested an early version, but not the V1 of GameGuru Max, on the old Windows Mixed Reality headset. But I haven't mentioned that because you can't buy them anymore. It was one of the earlier desktop VR solutions. And I've also tested it on my Index. So and Steam supports OpenXR via the Index as well. So those are the two that you can pretty much rely on. So if you buy the Oculus Quest 2, which is about $400, and then the Index, which is about $1,000. So whatever your price budget is, those are the two you could probably start with if you're interested in VR for GameGuru Max. But I must put an asterisk in, just as I said with standalone and that other feature. VR is one of the last things that was added to version 1, and thus is the one that needs the most testing. It works, you can create a game, you can run around in VR, the controllers work, but it's a far cry from, say, Half-Life Alyx, which there may be an expectation that you can turn around Half-Life Alyx in a week and then stick it on Steam. For GameGuru Max and VR, right now, that is zero the case. Don't expect you can actually do that. Right, we've just banged into the hour. There's 2 minutes to go. That's just enough time for me to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed this month's broadcast. I think because it's only once a month, an hour is a good chunk of time. I hope it's not too long and you haven't been tortured too much. Please definitely do check out the podcast from Duke229 aka Felix. There's a lot of information in there, some great questions that were done during the research phase before the broadcast was aired, so I'd highly recommend that. Also keep your eye out for DLCs that have just been released and are soon to be released. They're all very good. We try and keep the quality high these days. And as I say, get your questions ready for next month. Anyone who's just joined us, these broadcasts are at the end of the month, the last Wednesday of each month. So check out when the last Wednesday is for July, and that will be 7 PM BST. Be there or be square, and maybe we will run that vote again on whether you want to see 30-minute walkthroughs or whether you want basically this format that we've been doing now, which is about 10 minutes of news and then 50 minutes of live demonstrating answers in a Q&A, which I quite enjoy too, because it gives us the most freedom. So I know people want to get on now, so I'll say thank you. Thanks for attending, and I'll speak to you all next month. Until then, I shall say goodbye.